So, what is the connection between these and these?
Blood pressure high, headache, heart pounding,
nausea, vomiting, severe migraines.
Sick to my stomach.
Heart palpitations, inability to sleep.
These cluster of symptoms affecting some people who live close to towers is widely known as wind turbine syndrome, and the list of symptoms includes many that the people we spoke to said they had suffered from.
About a third of people exposed will report adverse health effects.
Dr. Robert McMurtry is considered a leading expert in Canada on the health effects of wind turbines. The former senior Health Canada official and University Dean of Medicine says of all the symptoms, sleep disturbance can be the most debilitating.
When chronic sleep disturbance and disruption is a risk, it's a risk for serious adverse health effects, including heart disease in particular, but also such things in the long term as cancer. So I'm saying it's a risk. I don't want to be creating fear in the sense of it's any guarantee, but it's known to be. And in saying that, I'm quoting the National Institutes of Health and Environmental Health perspectives.
For many victims who say the wind turbines are making them sick, it's not just the maddening sound that keeps them on edge and keeps them up at night, it's also what you can't hear, and experts agree.
There are other types of noise emitted by turbines, such as low-frequency infrasound.
Another doctor, Carmen Crow, has done years of research on wind turbine syndrome. She says while the audible noise emitted by wind turbines is a factor, it's the inaudible or low-frequency sound that humans can't hear, the infrasound, that takes the biggest toll on people's health, along with the pressure vibrations given off by the massive spinning blades.
They're like huge fans, and research going back many decades showed that that impulsive noise is very disturbing to people. We've got blades crossing in front of a tower, and there's a pulse, like an infrasound pulse, and a swooshing sound, which is traumatic to listen to all the time. It just goes intervals, whoof, whoof, that type of noise. And then we've got an audible noise that also can be disturbing, especially at night when it's very, very quiet. For decades, there's been research on low-frequency noise and infrasound in animal species. Those emissions have shown some tissue changes in the brain, the lungs, the heart, and the bowel.
You can't hear the infrasound, but your body can feel it.
I've had a lot of low-frequency testing here that proves the cyclical nature of the low frequency, the wind turbines here, and the low frequency in my home.
Experts say these forces, the air pressure changes, noise, vibration, even the flickering blades, distort sensory signals in the body and, in effect, throw things off. This, over an extended period of exposure, can trigger physical and psychological symptoms.
They're going around and around, and as it comes around, it pushes a pulse of air pressure out at you. It's kind of the same way with the infrasonic sound and the pressure that's created by the wind turbine. Not everybody will be affected by it, but there will be a significant number of people that will be.
Norma Schmidt recalls the paralyzing effect.
You're not able to do anything. You're not able to cook. You're not able to clean. You're not able to live. You're not able to work. You're not able to live your normal life. You're not able to sleep. That's torture.
Movement of the blades can give shadow flicker.
Another health concern is shadow flicker, the spinning shadows given off by the massive blades affecting people in homes and on highways.
Sometimes you can see that driving through leaves or something. It's very disturbing, and it does get in the house. And children, such as autistic, they're very vulnerable because they'll watch the moving blade and almost enter into a mesmerizing state.
And there's a school around Listowel that has a significant number of autistic children, and they're just going to build the turbines around the school, which, I mean, just horrifies the people that are sending their children there.
With these people falling sick in recent years, what about research into wind turbine syndrome here in Canada? Surely, regulations in Ontario for wind turbines were based on comprehensive studies, definitive research to establish what's a safe setback for people's homes from the turbines, right? You'd think.
There's not a lot of field research to draw upon in providing advice to Canadians about potential health effects.
Our journey for answers takes us inside an audio testing chamber in Ottawa, where Health Canada is almost 2 years into a $2 million major study on the adverse health effects of wind turbines.
The reason they initiated the Health Canada study was they had thousands of complaints from across rural Ontario, people living in close proximity to industrial turbines. They found a similar pattern: headaches, nausea, dizziness, sleep deprivation, high blood pressure. Everything we've heard about, they were finding.
But experts on adverse health effects of wind turbines we spoke to say the Health Canada study may not go far enough.
I've heard them say that they won't be able to establish causation nor have conclusive results. And honestly, having a position in the past in Health Canada, it left me astonished that that's the product after 2 years and $2 million of research.
Having a study come out saying that we need more research is really going to draw this out longer, because more turbines are being placed in Ontario and more approvals are coming through, and we're seeing more people are going to be exposed.
Which brings us to wind turbine regulations in Ontario. Eventually, the province established the minimum distance that a turbine can be built from someone's home at 550 meters. For earlier projects, it was even closer. So how did the Ontario Liberal government come up with that setback figure of 550 meters?
And they're convinced that 550 meters is an adequate setback based on, there's no supportive research.
The fact is the government has no health study to back up their claims that 550 as a setback works. Instead of saying the health and safety of the community should come first, what should the setback be? They've said, what's the setback, and we'll ignore everything else.
All the evidence points to a zone of health-affected homes situated too close to wind turbines. The closer the home, it seems, the worse the health problems are.
It's generally within that first kilometer of the turbine where people are really affected.
Ontario claims that its setbacks are safe.
The setbacks aren't working. We have a problem. Until Health Canada comes up with that proper setback and really understands what's going on, that we should stop doing what we're doing. We have far too many health affected people. They're all saying the same thing, and this is something we're seeing worldwide. Our government here seems to want to ignore that. But worldwide, we're starting to see that pushback from average people that simply are saying, we're not necessarily anti-wind, anti-green, but what you're doing is not working for the health and safety of the people in the community.
And so why, we ask, is industry and government not taking into consideration the growing body of evidence about health effects, with new wind projects being announced and in the pipeline?
There's been very good evidence of adverse health effects for over 30 years. That's number one. And number two, it's acknowledged by the industry. We have documents dating back 10 years on that. They know about it, but they know what to do to defend it. And they do it very, very well. That when these tribunals come, their principal task is to create doubt about any claims of adverse health effects, even though anybody who's looked at the people exposed finds adverse health effects, and they certainly can be serious, as we noted. But they argue that the proof is somehow not conclusive.
This is our fight, this is our community.
Against a green-obsessed government.
They all sat down with Environmental Defense, David Suzuki Foundation.
This is not green. It's ridiculous.
The massive cost.
They don't run on wind. They run on subsidies.
So much money has been spilled here.
For a system that doesn't make any sense.
It is not profitable, it's not cost effective.
The inside connections.
The wind turbine companies are side by side with the Liberal government.
We are not going to holus bolus cancel those contracts.
Will they turn back?
Too much invested to admit the error.
I say fight like hell. Fight like hell.
I cry every day. I cry every day. My heart is broken beyond belief.
Norma Schmidt's home used to be her castle.
Well, it was a labor of love. This was a home, a dream home. 13 acres that my husband had bought before we married.
Everything changed after the wind developers came calling.
We were told that this was good for the environment, it was free, it was good for our community, and we believed the bill of goods that we were sold. It is the largest scam we have ever heard in our lives.
But in the Liberals' mad dash to ramp up wind power, were affected communities properly consulted and given a say? Were they aware and did they care about the potential health effects for people who lived close to the turbines? People like Sandy McLeod?
I always thought that the professionals who were going to allow this project and set up the safety recommendations for this project would have done their professional due diligence. We asked about what would happen to our health.
As the turbines went up, those concerns grew, and the beginnings of a rural backlash began. Sandy's home ended up almost surrounded by the turbines, and soon she and members of her family started feeling sick.
We had significant blood pressure changes, ringing in the ear, constant, and the ringing was intense. Like it felt like as if somebody was taking a Q-tip and just shoving it in your ear. Your heart would pound, and neighbors would complain of headaches that they'd never had before. The symptoms were so extreme and so severe.
She says the noise, this noise, was unrelenting. So just what would it be like to live in the shadow of these mammoth turbines? To get an idea of just how big industrial wind turbines are, you've really got to get up close. From 300 up to 500 feet tall, that's 50 stories that this wind turbine reaches up to. And when it comes to the blades, well, they're as wide as a 747.
Oh, it's difficult. I haven't opened these in years.
Right from day one, Sandy kept a meticulous diary of what was happening to her family's health.
We had been 5 months sleep deprived. Turbines cycling very high, high-pitched ringing, right ear, ringing hard, chest pounding. I'm feeling very sad, very tired, trying to get some sleep, ears ringing. Turbines sound like jets. So that's in May of 2008. We were like mama bears and papa bears. We wanted to protect our families. Some people had lived in that area their entire life. The road we lived on, one of the ladies had lived there her whole life, and she had never experienced this ever. We tried so hard to stop what happened to us.
Sandy's friend and neighbor Kim Calling watched helplessly while others whispered.
There were 5 families who were very severely affected by the turbines. There were a few people around the area that said it was all in their heads. It was almost like it was those families were alone in a little pack and no one else was helping them.
Every day we were like lab animals being tested on.
The Ripley Wind Farm project split the community between landowners who signed contracts to take the turbines and neighbors who lived in their shadows.
We had been suffering very serious health problems since the turbines began generating.
The mysterious health problems only got worse.
We begged for sleep. February 22nd of 2009, I had heart attack symptoms. I had to go to the hospital.
Nausea, vomiting. The nausea became so severe. I eventually went down to 98 pounds. over time, I just couldn't manage.
Her suffering, she says, pushed her to the very edge.
Severe depression, and ultimately I became suicidal.
Things got so bad she was forced to leave her beloved profession.
I love nursing. A nurse is what I am. It's the gift God gave me. I had the dream career of teaching nursing students. Dream career. Nursing students are just the best thing on earth.
Her health, her life in peril, Norma's doctor advised her to leave her home, the home she loved. Norma's world crumbled.
So I begged them to buy me out. And I really thought I could walk away. But I kept coming back. And I kept coming back. And it was like ripping my heart out, my heart and my soul. It's not a house, it's not four walls. It's the place we buried our pets. It's the place my tulips are out there, my 4 and my 5-year-old. Planted when they were tiny dots. It's memories that I want to carry to my grandchildren. It's my heart and my soul that I've left behind here. And now I'm in a room in my daughter's house. That's not my home. That's not my heart and soul. I'm in a town where I don't want to be. This is where I want to be, where I choose to be, where I choose to live, where my life is. How dare they make me leave my home, my life, what I choose to have? How dare they? They've no right, but yet the government gives them the right. They give them a carte blanche. It's not acceptable in Ontario.
We lost our property.
That sickening sense of loss was also like a punch to the gut for Sandy McLeod, as she too was forced to leave her beloved home.
And it's not just here, in communities around Lake Huron, where we found stories of people getting sick and of residents battling big wind projects. We found similar stories all across the province. To the southeast, along the shores of Lake Erie, in a tiny town of Clear Creek, we found an 84-year-old woman who planned to spend the rest of her life in her dream retirement home, only to be forced out when the wind turbines went up.
This is what Stefana Johnson sees from her kitchen window.
Oh, okay.
This is the home she had built, where she had planned to live the rest of her life. Then a wind power project came to her community.
All 18 of them within 3 kilometers. That is a huge impact on a community. Sometimes it sounded to me as I was trying to sleep and I could hear a rumbling sound. Well, I thought it was a train, but it wasn't. It was just the turbulence from the wind turbines. And other times it sounded like a 747, just hovering overhead for hours on end.
And just like those in other wind projects, Stefana too began experiencing health problems.
And I would lie in bed and I would feel the vibrations in my intestines and think, what on earth is happening? There are times when I actually feel sick to my stomach and I feel like bringing up. I feel real nausea, just horrific. And there are times when I feel very dizzy. And this is one time I fell. I lost all control of my body. I just lost it.
And like Norma, Stefana now only visits her old home.
Any brain scan that I had, any MRI, my brain was completely clear. But in 2009, there were some lesions on the brain. In January of 2014, an increase in number, an increase in size of lesions.
Stefana Johnson knows at age 84 and in failing health, she won't be around for many more years. but she wants to prove the harmful effects of wind turbines even after she dies. She has offered to donate her brain for research.
These lesions are the result of something that's been happening to me since the turbines started generating. At least there might be some value in an autopsy and an examination of my brain. So that's what lies ahead. But I'm prepared for that. We all die.
My God, what are you people thinking?
The hidden victims.
We wanted to protect our families.
It's like ripping my heart out.
The mysterious health problems.
Severe migraines, severe depression.
I had heart attacks sometimes.
Lives turned upside down.
How dare they make me leave my home?
We have a government that's not protecting their citizens.
Their rights stomped on.
They took away their planning powers.
Everybody counts. Everybody counts. Your life counts. Your family counts. Your home, your community, your future expectations, they all count. What happened to us, it's not right, it's not just, and it shouldn't be happening to anybody else.
There's certain things they can't take. They can't take your choices, your decisions of what you're going to do. They can't take your happiness.
All people are looking for is their happiness. However, the green scam introduced right here at Queen's Park has been more than a failure, it's been a nightmare. Ontarians were sold on green energy, lower electricity bills, green jobs, and cleaner air. However, prime farmland has been destroyed. Property values are tanking. Migratory birds are being killed. Local governments were stripped of their powers. Concerned citizens have been mobilizing. They're fighting tooth and nail. The Green Energy Act has cost Ontarians billions of dollars. It is unaffordable. Wind power is variable, it's intermittent, it's unreliable, and it's backed up by a fossil fuel. Skyscraper-sized wind turbines are a menace on people's health. Is it time to say stop? Is it time to fix what's gone terribly wrong? Is it time to turn wind down?